life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey listeners, welcome back to the Roadshow. My guest today is mindset coach Tashina King. You'll find Tashina's full bio in the show notes. Hey everybody, my guest today had a hit that left her questioning her lifelong career and used her connection to spirit to help her see her authentic path. I'm Dianna Leeder, host of the Crave More Life Roadshow podcast. I'm an intuitive life hack and a confidence coach who helps people get what they want when they find their voice. I'm also the proud lead author of the Find Your Voice, Save Your Life book series on Amazon, including the award-winning Powerful Healers, Spiritual Stories, and the beauty being published this coming August, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. Conscious parenting mama and mindset coach Tashina King is my guest today. Tashina understands the demands of being a woman and overcoming emotional hits, all the while staying connected to her authenticity and her soul purpose. She is an internationally recognized top dance instructor and entrepreneur, has toured over 13 countries as a coach and professional dancer while being married, having a 3-year-old son, and currently pregnant with her second child. Welcome to the Roadshow, Tashina. That's a handful of stuff.
Thanks, Dianna. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, you've been busy for a bit. And have you had your child yet?
No, I'm 36 weeks, so due in about 4 weeks or whenever he decides to come, just spiritually, I really am leaving that in his hands, as his timing, and honoring that, and when he wants to make his debut into the family and the world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah. So 2 boys. You only have
two boys. Yes.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Congratulations, and I hope you'll tell me when you actually have the baby.
Thank you. Yes, I'll have to let you know and send a picture.
Oh, I'd love that. I would love that. Yeah. So, Tashina, tell me a little bit about your story.
So my story really began, my mom says, when I started to be old enough to be in one of those, I think, Johnny jump ups, where you would hook it up above the door and you could put the baby, in the doorway so the baby could bounce. Mm-hmm. And my mom saw me keeping time to the music and changed the radio station, saying, no way, that can't be. And the tempo of the song slowed down, and I slowed down my jumping, and I started jumping to the beat and the timing of that music. Oh, wow. So my mom would say my journey started, from the very, very get-go. But at 2.5 years old, I told my mom I wanted to be in dance classes. And just really, ever since I can consciously remember, I've had a passion, a soul passion to dance and to move. And that really led me on quite an awesome, beautiful journey to where after high school, I joined a performing arts company for several years, and we toured internationally working with at-risk youth, and got to meet a lot of incredible individuals who'd had very different backgrounds, but through the heart language of movement and music, we're able to connect with the inner confidence, the self-worth that some had lost, some had never connected with. And, in turn, we helped one another. So I was a part of that performing arts company for several years and did several tours with them. And it was at that point in my life that I really fell in love with teaching dance and teaching movement. And after that, transitioned into a form of partner dancing called West Coast Swing, and really loved that. But both in the performing arts company realm and the West Coast Swing realm, which is the style of dance I still do currently, I felt like I could always do more. I felt like there was always more available to me, and I felt like I was capable of more. But it always felt like there was a glass wall in front of me where I could see what was on the other side. And I knew I had what it took internally, but the two never aligned. And it left me really frustrated and defeated to the point where I was really ready to walk away from my entire dance career because I wasn't getting what felt like anywhere. And I felt like I was just spinning my wheels nonstop. And there was this deep yearning at the soul level for me to dance and to do this as a professional career, but outwardly manifested, it wasn't coming together. It wasn't really clicking in a way that I felt like I could gain traction. And so it really took for me having the conversation with myself that I was ready to literally give up my childhood dream and what I would more or less rather deem my soul purpose, that initial soul purpose, walk away from it for me to connect with a part of myself that I didn't even know was behind the steering wheel, basically. That was creating a lot of the challenges that I felt like I was continuously facing.
Yeah. Well, that kind of is probably not the best place to stop because you just got us hanging, right? I want to say though, before you go further, I'm not a professional dancer, but I can relate to the connection of body movement to the heart space, the heart space and spirit. That's when I have my regular dance parties in my kitchen, which I do pretty much every morning. That's when I connect. I know that the spirit is there with me. I can feel it. So yeah, beautiful. And I love that you took that and you helped, kids that really need to know themselves. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. We helped one another for sure.
Yeah, I guess so, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what a teacher or a coach or a mentor is. Even though you might be teaching or offering guidance or wisdom in one particular format, the other person is also there to offer lots of beautiful lessons if the teacher's, willing to be conscious of that opportunity.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was that next stage? What happened then?
So what happened when I was ready to walk away and give it all up was a conversation with my mom, who was at the time doing clinical hypnotherapy and another form of work with the subconscious called Psyche. And she and I just started having lots of in-depth conversation of why did I feel like I was having these challenges, these frustrations, and she was sharing about some of her work and her training. And I recalled a memory from when I was 12 years old. And I had been at a dance studio from the time that I told my mom at 2.5 I wanted to be starting in dance classes. She found a studio that would take a youngster at 2.5, and I was there up until I was 12. And so it was practically my second home, the owner of the studio, almost kind of like a second mom. I was there all the time. So I had developed this really close relationship with that studio. And at the time of 12, my parents were getting a divorce. And so lots of life change was happening. And just geographically, it didn't work to continue going to that studio. And so we had told that studio owner, that was like a second mom, that I was no longer going to be able to attend. And it was after the conversation with her, my parents and I had completed. My parents, I think, were like going to the restroom, kind of wrapping up before we got in the car. And it was just my teacher and myself. And I remember her looking at me and wagging her finger, and who knows what she was going through. But she said, "You'll never amount to anything as a dancer." And at 12 years old, I guess I took it to heart. And I didn't know that in the moment. It really hit me. And I remember it hurting and I remember feeling upset by it. But, after a few days, I felt like I had kind of moved on. But what I hadn't realized is that I had taken that phrase from her, those words and the energy behind those words, and it had hit me at such a deep subconscious level that I had been operating from that point forward, really, with that belief about myself that I would never amount to anything as a dancer. And so through high school then in my other dance studio, then the performing arts company, then the West Coast swing professional career. It was the same thing, the same experience. I felt like I could only get so far, and then I would get that far, and then something would occur, whether it was self-sabotage or just things energetically didn't align because my energy wasn't, of that vibration, to where I literally couldn't amount to what I considered to be anything as a dancer. I couldn't reach the level of success that I knew internally I was capable of, that authentic drive that I knew I was reaching and striving for, because of that internal belief. And so my mom then offered to assist me through some of the work that she was doing, and the psyche work is really what I connected with. And literally within about 2 months, without changing any other of my training schedule or things like that with my dancing, I finally started to make finals. And then it was within a full circle 3 additional years to the exact event that I actually started at with my West Coast swing dancing. I made it into the finals division of the highest level that you can compete at in that style of dance. And it felt like it was overnight. It definitely took time, and it definitely took, the human work of showing up to the craft and practicing. But literally it felt like overnight, without changing anything else other than working with my internal belief structure, things really started to shift. And so my family has raised me to understand energy and things like that. So when I started to explore the psyche work, I also began to understand how my energy was showing up differently in my training, how I was showing up vibrationally with dance partners, and how I was able to connect differently to the music and to the individuals that I was drawing in these competitions, because oftentimes you draw a random partner and a random song to dance to. Mm-hmm. And so not only does the psyche in my belief work at a subconscious level, but it also changes your vibration, your energy, right, and your attunement to those around you and your environment.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you did reach the success that you were looking for.
I did. And just like your podcast, Crave More Life, there's that yearning to continue to evolve and to grow. So yeah, I at that point started to work with a dance partner professionally, and he and I taught internationally together for about 4.5, 5 years. And we were at large competitions, large events with the other top name professionals in the form of dance, and judging and coaching and teaching, competing ourselves. And when I think back to it, like, that was really what I wanted to do with my dance. Was I wanted to travel internationally. I wanted to express through movement, and I wanted to connect with individuals through dance. And what I really connected with when I found West Coast swing was the masculine and the feminine, and how both of those roles are equally important, or the idea of a leader and follower. And, at first I had to kind of bust through my own preconceived ideas of what those terms meant, really to delve into the equality and the richness that is in each of those roles, the importance. And then what started to happen was, as I was traveling and teaching private lessons and things like that, a lot of conversation would come up with my students about how aspects that they were experiencing in their dancing were showing up in other areas of their life. And so dance started to become, I started to experience it, I should say, as a mirror for people. And so as I was doing my own work with my own mindset, my own beliefs, my own energy, again, that space around me started to change. So I started to have people coming into my field who were ready to talk about those types of things. And so lots of beautiful connections started to happen with my dance students, where we'd be talking about dance initially, but then the conversation transitioned to aspects of their life that they were feeling challenged in, and how it reflected in their dancing. And so through dance, and then I was introducing the psyche work as well, because at that time I'd taken all the trainings and I was able to help facilitate the same processes with other individuals. then I started working with dancers in that capacity as well. So it's
Excellent.
really been quite an incredible, empowering journey. And like I said a few minutes ago, you know, as people bring their stuff to the table, it also helps me look at my own life and go, oh yeah, like this is something I'm working through similarly, and I can relate to that. Okay, this is what I need to shift for myself now, having that understanding. So it's been this incredible two-way street of growth and empowerment between dance and the psyche work.
Right, right. Yeah, you know what? I agree that you know you can't work with someone and not understand yourself a little bit better each time. You know,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Actually, it's a beautiful relationship. I love that. And I also wanted to comment on your, you know, thinking about the divine feminine and divine masculine and those roles as you're dancing. You know, and I hope that whoever is listening knows this already, but you know, it's not the same as you know the genders, you know, male and female, men and women as genders. You know, when we think of those, we think of something very different. You know, to be able to honor that, you know, the divine masculine and the divine feminine roles, and know that they are, you know, they can anyone could have them. You know, all those traits, anyone can have them. You know, it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter what our gender is. But to honor them and know they're there and know that they need to be expressed when they're there, you know, I think is really important. So yeah, love that you're doing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. It just kind of leaves me speechless sometimes, just the ability to connect with people that way. It's
Yeah,
really incredible.
yeah, yeah. So, what are some of the mindset blocks that you often find in your clients?
Um, Perfectionism tends to be a really big one.
What?
Um,
Really? Yeah.
um, and that's definitely something I've worked a lot through, and I feel like I've made some really great progress myself. But you know, there's still times a new layer of that comes to the surface, so I keep working with it. But yeah, perfectionism, I'd say, is one of the biggest things that I've come across consistently with my clients or my dance students. And at some point in their life, and if a person is of the mindset of past lives, even bringing in that concept
Yeah.
of I'm not enough. And so this constant internal drive to have whatever it is they're doing at work or in their relationships or finances, whatever it may be, that whatever they're striving for has to be perfect as a way of proving that they're enough. And so oftentimes we enter into a conversation of, well, who are you trying to prove to that you're enough? Is it yourself? Is it your family? Is it society? You know, and the wonderful world of social media, you know, are you trying to prove it that way so that you can get comments back or outside validation back that you're enough, you know? And so really working with that internal energetic frequency of I am enough, you know, being born intrinsically enough
Mm-hmm.
without having to feel like you need outside validation to constantly reaffirm it. Is
Yeah.
it nice at times to have those comments? Yes, it's wonderful to have comments that, you know, what you're doing is great work, or, you know, you're really creative. But when we are able to know that internally at our deepest place of our being, that we're enough, what we do changes, how we do it changes. And then in the times that we're not receiving the outside feedback, you know, we're able to live a more consistently stable, happy, fulfilled life. Whereas if we're dependent upon that outside validation to prove to ourselves that we are enough, I find that people tend to live this really high and low roller coaster,
Right. Right.
um, that leaves
Yeah.
them just depleted.
Yes, absolutely. I often say that there is no such thing as perfection. You know,
Mm-mm,
we will never reach it ever.
mm,
So at some point, yes, there's that internal place where we just need to be good with exactly who we are. So, I often think about all the, self love because, there's so many things that get thrown around now, especially on social media, self
Right.
love, self judgment, self care, all the selves, I call them. And I really think that, for me and my work, and that's kind of what I'm hearing from you too, is that the bottom line is really about self acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that I find comes up again is the fear of, well, if I don't continue to strive to be more, I'll be lazy and I'll just then be, complacent with life. And so there's also a conversation of how can you be fulfilled with what you know and have and who you are in this moment while still giving yourself the space to continuously learn and grow. And
Mm-hmm.
so I find that there's a lot of dichotomy for people where they feel like it's one or the other, as opposed to stepping into you are enough just as you are right now. And how you show up is enough with what you know and have in this moment. And yes, you can always continue to grow and learn and expand and evolve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
when people are able to kind of wrap their heads around that, it frees them up. And a lot of that perfectionist weight is lifted up off of their shoulders or out of their perception.
Mm-hmm. It's such valuable work. We are, women particularly, are plagued by perfectionism. Men are as well, but women particularly, I think. And if we don't manage it, if we don't think about it, if we don't go inside and start to, ponder where it comes from and, all the points that you made, then yeah, it'll just hang on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it detracts our ability to show up fully in relationships with our
Yes.
significant others, with our children, with our coworkers. And we can't really be our full selves if we're constantly plagued with the comparison or the thoughts of needing to be perfect, or we don't have opportunities present themselves if we're limiting our focus to having this be perfect because we miss everything else that's happening around us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to make the distinction between um, accepting who we are and with the skills and the traits that we bring to the table, and being able to do the things that we want to do to such a degree that we feel really good doing it. So I don't think that just accepting ourselves is like, oh, okay, we can just sit on the couch and, because that's probably
Right.
not what we want to do anyway, right?
No.
Yeah, it's bigger than that, isn't it?
It is. Yep. Much, much bigger.
Yeah. So is it just dancers that you're working with now?
No, so I had my first son in 2019. And so, with the work that I had done previously with my dancing, I really started to look at my own beliefs around fertility and pregnancy and childbirth and my body's ability to birth. For me, I wanted a natural birth and I wanted an at home birth. So, I started to do a lot of that work. And another thing I feel like I came into the world with, looking back, is a fascination with parenting, with pregnancy and childbirth. I remember as a young kid, I would watch a show on TLC called A Baby Story. So when I would come home from school, that's what I would watch versus, a cartoon or something. So I really love working with other individuals, other women or partners around entering into family, entering into parenthood,
Mm,
from a much more conscious, empowered place, because of all of our different upbringings. All of us have different ideas about being parents, or about our concern or fear of repeating our parents' mistakes, or whatever it may be, that even if it's not limiting you to have children, just those underlying nagging thoughts, fears, doubts. I love working with people, helping them to heal that at a subconscious level, at an energetic level, so that as much as possible they can, step into parenthood from an empowered space,
mm,
where they're really having done their own work so that they can really be present to the new chapter of life that they're entering into with the new soul that's coming in. And so I really love working with conscious fertility, conscious pregnancy and childbirth. So that's one realm I just get super jazzed about. I love working with entrepreneurs because I've been my own thing, my own business, if you will, since out of high school. My dad and mom are entrepreneurs. My great grandparents had their own businesses. So talk about like generational, energetic frequency. There's a lot of that there. And I really love helping people connect with their authentic calling, because I find oftentimes entrepreneurs are individuals that are really following what they feel internally is calling them, from a soul purpose or passion. So I love helping entrepreneurs, and then as well as artists, whether that's authors or painters, other dancers, musicians. So those are kind of the three realms that I work a lot in. But a lot of my clients are women. And then I've got the clients that are like, I just am so feeling lost and frustrated and overwhelmed. I don't have a healthy relationship with my body or my food. Everything in my life just doesn't seem to click. And so that also is really a beautiful space to step into, because at that point, I find most women that I work with are really in a space of openness and curiosity to exploring what isn't clicking. And then from there, we can start to work with the highest priorities to start creating shifts, so things start to align and flow, and they can start to connect with their inner power, their inner voice in a way that's truly authentic. And the more we continue to work through and heal and transform those limiting beliefs, again, it might be old energetic patterns from family or past lives, if the person is of that, approach, then things really start to shift.
Yeah. So are you doing ancestral clearing?
Technically, I guess that's what you would call it. Yes, I've never really called it that, or thought about it that way, but I am of the belief that when we, work with our energy now, it doesn't only impact the current, it also impacts the energetic frequencies or patterns prior to us, as well as before us, which is a big reason I really love working with the fertility piece, because I know it's not only impacting that mother and child, but the lineage to come from that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Years down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really beautiful. Because when I think about a woman who's having a child, who's not aware of her, of her energetic stamp, or, what's happening for her, she's just going with the flow. She's someone that I would consider to not have a really strong voice. And what, I mean, it's so easy. I know just from having my own children, it's so easy to get caught up in doing what you're told. I mean, there are lots of people that will give you lots of advice. There are doctors that will tell you to do things in a certain way. And if that's not your way, then, it's a hard thing to challenge. So, even just to start building that strength for somebody is awesome, so that they can then not only be strong while they're carrying the child, giving birth to the child, but then they can be a conscious parent as well, which, again, talking about perfectionism is a big place for us to fall prey to magazines, the internet, what's happening next door, how come she always looks really great when I feel like crap,
Exactly.
Yeah, there's just so many places that, it just sounds like the work that you're doing is just real gut stuff that is so beneficial for women.
Yeah, it's important. I think we are in a time in history and in the Earth's, evolution, that we really need to be answering our own call and working through our own stuff. And that's one of the most powerful ways that we can help change the direction of where, as a collective, we're headed.
And raise their own vibration at the same time, right?
Yep, exactly.
Their vibration and that of the planet. Yeah. Perfect. So if you had one piece of advice to give to someone that's struggling right now with mindset, what would it be?
It would be to know that you can change it. and you are a co-creator of your reality, and you're not a victim of what's happened in the past or what could happen in the future, that you are a very active role in the reality that you experience in life. And if you want things to be different, you need to take an active role in creating a different reality for yourself. And there's, many different ways of doing that. For me, the way I've connected is through the Psyche work and working with those internal, again, belief structures and foundations, clearing the traumas that are still active at a subconscious level, so that you can really start to show up and identify what do you want in life. Whereas a lot of people tend to focus on what they don't want, what they don't like about it. Really start to identify what is it that you do want, and what beliefs, what would you need to have operating internally, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in order for that reality to come into fruition. Because if you can identify that initial, this is what I want, then you have the capability to identify what else it is that you need to change. And it's okay if you need help in getting there. We all need to support one another in our walks. But in the end, you're the one that has to do your work, and you have to show up for yourself and have your own back.
Yeah, absolutely. That very first line that you said when I asked you that question was that that they are a co-creator, right? We all are a co-creator, and I love that. I think that's my term for that is kicking your own ass. Taking responsibility for your outcomes.
Yes.
Your experiences. It's a big deal. I mean, it's a giggle one, but it's true. We have to stand up for what's in here.
Absolutely. No one else will.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you have a couple of gifts that you want to extend.
Yeah. So with perfectionism being something that really I had to work through, I've got, a lot of experience in at least the way that I worked through it, and a lot of my clients as well. So I created a Break the Perfectionist Mindset kit as a free offer to help individuals get started working through that. And so it's a download that you can get on my website. And do you have the link, I think?
I have the link, and it will all be in the show notes.
Yeah.
And your website address as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. So feel free to, for those of you listening, if this is something that you resonate with, you feel called to explore more, or for the first time, my offer to you is the Break the Perfectionist Mindset kit to get you started and supported. And you can go to my website, which is empoweredtogreatness.com/perfectionist kit. And you can get started that way. And then I've got some other self-paced courses on my website. And then I do one-on-one coaching. And I always offer a free strategy call to anyone who's just wanting to have some more conversation, where I can help you identify things on that call and a plan of action in the way that I work with individuals. So
cool. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Tashina. I really appreciate you coming on the show and telling us about what you do. And I think that you have shared a lot of information that will matter to women for sure, and men, but particularly women again. You're making a difference. So you go.
Thank you, Will. You too. Thanks for having this platform and following that calling, so that we can all have conversation.
Yeah, it's fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And listeners, thanks for showing up today. And you know what I'm going to say next, because I say it at the end of every show, but just by showing up today and listening to the conversation, you are kicking your own ass. So thank you for showing up, and we'll see you next time. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.